when Saturn, the planet, gets very close to your moon, whatever is your Rashi, it is called 7.5 years Saturn. During that 7.5 years phase, all the negative things that is there in the horoscope tries to come out. It is like exam time.
Welcome back to another video on astrology. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the Saturn transit from Scorpio to Sagittarius, from Vrishika Rasi to Dhanus Rasi, and that's happening on Jan 26th. It's quite strange and rare for Saturn to move on its own date because Saturn rules number 8, 17 and 26. Any date that adds up to 8 belongs to Saturn. And not only that, with regard to India, this is going to be all the more important because this transit happens on India's Republic Day. So this is the solar system. Let's extract Saturn from the solar system. And here we have Saturn in Scorpio. You can also see Scorpio behind it. And he's been here for a long time from November 2014. And because Saturn moves once approximately 2.5 years, it becomes the most important transit of all the planets. Also, Saturn has more karma packed in it, which is also another reason why the transit of Saturn attracts so much attention. So the transit actually happens on January 26th. What we mean by transit is that Saturn crosses over, moves into a new sign. That is the actual meaning of transit. This place or this sign is called Sagittarius. And that's why we say that Saturn has moved into Sagittarius. There are many strange things about this transit because normally when Saturn enters a sign, he stays there without coming back to the previous sign, but once in a while he also does that. After having come into Sagittarius, it looks like Saturn forgot something. He has some unfinished job in Scorpio. And so on April 7th, Saturn starts going backwards. And then he's in a hurry to enter Vrischika. And on June 21st, he actually re-enters the sign that he has been there for a long time, Scorpio. And then on August 25th, he stops going backwards, which means he becomes direct. It is called direct motion. And then again, he goes forward like this. And then on October 26th, once again, another 8 number. 26th, he re-enters Sagittarius. And then he decides to stay here, does not want to go back again into the previous sign. So whenever a retrogression happens like this, what it means is that in your life, if something has been unfinished, something that you have not closed, the file is not closed, then you will find those events once again repeating. In case the events were good, then you will have one more episode of the same good event. And if it was challenging or what we call as bad, then some of those events can come back to you. Whenever you read the results of transits of any planet, there are 2 charts that you should have. The first one is called Sarvashtaka Varga. It will be a chart like this, but instead of the planets here, you will find only numbers. And it will be a 2-digit number. And when you add up all the 2-digit number, you will get 337. So find out what is the score you have obtained in this part of the horoscope, which is Sagittarius. It has to be a 2-digit number. And if it is 23, for example, then the challenges that Saturn has already indicated is most likely to happen. On the other hand, let's say instead of that, you have 35 over here. And even a 28 is enough. Greater the number, the better it gets. Same way, the other chart is Saturn's Ashtaka Varga. It is a chart that has numbers, but it has only a single-digit number in it. And the possibilities of the numbers is just anywhere from 0 to 7 because in Saturn's Ashtavarga, Saturn does not obtain 8 in any place. So find out what is the score you have obtained in Dhanus in the Ashtavarga of Saturn. So let's say if it is 7 like this, then even if it is a 7.5 year Saturn or Ashtama Shani or Kantaka Shani, in spite of all that, just because you got a very high score here, which is the maximum possible, then this Saturn transit is not going to affect you negatively. But on the other hand, if the results are positive, then you will have extraordinary results because the score of Saturn, its Ashwarga, is 7 over here. Before going into the discussions of the effects of transit Saturn, I'd like to bring to your notice that transit is not everything in astrology. There are so many other things. Your basic horoscope has to be first understood. What events are possible and what events are not possible. Whatever events are indicated in your horoscope, only those are likely to come up during the transit of a particular planet. Also, at any given point in time, you are ruled by a planet according to the dasha system, which is the Mahadasha and the Antardasha. The effects of Mahadasha and Antardasha is actually stronger than transit results, except in the case of 7.5 year Saturn or Ashtama Shani or the fourth house transit of Saturn from the moon sign. In all other cases, you find that the effects of the Dasha and Antardasha will supersede the effect of transits. Well, this is a debatable point on what is the share for transits and the dashas. At least you should understand that whatever happens in your life is a sum total of both the effects of transit and the dasha and antardasha put together. And you can't read it alone. So, since this is the first sign of the zodiac, Aries, let's start from here. Your moon sign can only be Aries if your nakshatra is Ashwini or Bharani or Kritika. Once you know that your moon is here, all you have to do is count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Jupiter right now is in your 6th house in transit, and then this is 7, 8 and 9. So you got the number here. I've been always referring to Phaladipika because I've been getting very good results using this classical textbook, and the book says that if Saturn in transit moves over your 9th house, then there is likely to be loss of wealth because this is obviously the house of Bhagya or fortune, obstacles to the performance of good deeds, possibility of the death of an elderly relative in your family, and perpetual sorrow. Having said all this, I would like to tell you a very important, good news for you. There is a concept called Viparita Veda. So Veda is a blocking effect. A transit result of a planet could be blocked by another transiting planet. For example, Phaladipika says that if Saturn is in your 9th house, it is bad. But the book also says that if at the same time Jupiter or if any planet moves over your 6th from your moon sign, then it is very good. If Saturn transit coincides with a sign that has lots of points in your Sarvashtaka Varga, then the challenges, if any, definitely minimizes to a very great extent. And if in your Saturn's Ashtaka Varga, if the score is 4, 5, 6 and 7, Saturn never gets an 8 in any Rashi. Let's say it is 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. In that case, you should expect more of the positive side of this transit. You have to do all the Saturn remedies that I have suggested in my earlier videos only if this Saturn transit coincides with an Ashtavarga score of 0, 1, 2, even 3 is okay because 3 is somewhat neutral, but 0 and 1 or 2 is capable of bringing out the effects of the demerits of our past life. So when we say loss of wealth, obstacles to the performance of good deeds, you can reverse this by going to temples regularly, the place of worship, and also worship your gurus, your father, your elders, your teachers. Now, having said all this, I would like to tell you a very important, good news for you. There is a concept called Viparita Veda. Veda means obstruction. So, a transit result of a planet could be blocked by another transiting planet. For example, Faladipika says that if Saturn is in your ninth house, it is bad. But the book also says that if at the same time Jupiter or if any planet moves over your sixth from your moon sign, then it blocks the unfavorable results of Jupiter. But all this protection from Jupiter is likely to be there only as long as Jupiter stays here. And all grahas, all planets keep moving, they don't stay in the same place. So this Jupiter moves over from Kanya to Thula or from Virgo to Libra on September 12th. So on that day when it moves over here like this, then this Jupiter no longer blocks the ill effects of Saturn being in your ninth house. Now we move on to the next moon sign, Vrishabha Rasi, Taurus moon sign, and so in which case the moon will only be here, and the three nakshatras possible are Kritika, Rohini, and Mrigashira. So since counting always starts from the moon sign, you count from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have now Saturn in the 8th house. Now Saturn in the 8th house is supposed to be a very stressful period. It's called the Ashtama Shani. So this is not a good period, and in fact most people in astrology have been saying that it is as powerful or as challenging as 7.5 year Saturn or Sade-Sati. Now Faladipika says concerns with children, or maybe the children go away to another place. It could also be that. Maybe they get married and they move away, or due to educational reasons they move away to another place. All this is possible. And loss of assets. So in ancient times they mentioned this as cattle. And loss of friends, and general loss in matters of money, and also suffering from diseases. So before concluding, you should also check the Sarvashtaka Varga score. If in Sagittarius the score is more than, let's say, 32 or 35 or even above 28, it's not going to be that bad. But if it is less than 28, it could be bad. And in the Ashtavarga of Saturn, if you find that the score is 0, 1 and 2, then you'll have to be really concerned with this transit, because whatever we said is most likely to happen. And if it is 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, then it gets better and better as the score increases. So please verify your Ashtavarga, both the charts, the Sarvashtavarga and the Bhinnashtavarga. And apart from that, you also have to have an eye on your dashas and antardashas, because if you're running a good and favorable dasha and antardasha, then you don't have to worry so much about this, because what happens in life is usually a sum total influence of transit and the dasha and antardasha with reference to your unique horoscope. Whenever a person goes through Sade-Sati, 7.5 year Saturn or Ashtama Shani, as in this case, then please do all the Saturn remedies always on 8th, 17th and 26th and Saturdays, and when the nakshatra on that day happens to be the 8th nakshatra or the 17th nakshatra or the 26th nakshatra. The best of remedies is feeding the crows and being very kind to servants and menial job workers. Do not bargain with street side vendors, those who are trying to manage their life with a very small business on the roadside, and also be basically generous with differently abled people. And if you believe, then you should worship Lord Hanuman. Maybe chant, you should try Hanuman Chalisa or the simple Sri Ramajayam. Now we move on to Mithuna Rasi, Gemini moon sign, in which case you will have the moon only in this part of the horoscope, and this is possible only if you are a Mrigashira Nakshatra or Arudra or Punarvasu. So you can see that Saturn is in the 7th sign from your moon sign, and the 7th sign is not good because it indicates poor health, or health conditions may deteriorate for your spouse, and there's also possibilities of having some problems while traveling. So drive very carefully on 8th, 17th and 26th. be patient on Saturdays or whenever Saturn is ruling the particular day. Wherever possible, it is always better to avoid travel on the Saturn dominated days. So please check your Sarvashtaka Varga score. In Sagittarius, what score you have got. This is a 2-digit number that is always available on the Sarvashtaka Varga. And if the score is 35 and more, then you don't have to worry so much about what we just now said, but or at least it should be minimum 28, but less than 28, then Saturn here is capable of giving its effects, which we have mentioned just now. In case the Binashtavarga, that is the Saturn's Ashtavarga, score in this particular Sagittarius is 0, 1 or 2, then please do all the Saturn remedies to the best of your abilities. So now let's move on to Karkataka Rashi, which is Cancer Moon Sign, and this is possible if your nakshatra is Punarvasu or Pushyami, the 8th nakshatra, or Aslesha. So now if you count from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So the 6th house transit of Saturn is one of the best positive transits of Saturn, and one word Phaladipika says all-round happiness. So you should be very happy about this transit, and this is an advantage for 2.5 years, and so make hay when the sun shines. Phaladipika also says that when Saturn is in the 6th house and is willing to give you all-round happiness all through its transit, a planet moving in the 9th house over this place, which is Pisces, can block the effects of this wonderful transit. Luckily for you, Jupiter is not here, so you'll have to always keep an eye on as the planets keep moving like this, and when Mars, for example, comes here into your 9th from your moon, so this Mars will block the good effects of this Jupiter. And once you know the significations of Mars, then you can even find out or guess from which area the blocks are likely to come. For example, if it is Mars, it could be your brother who's blocking you, or maybe the police. A negative Mars can also be a thief, someone who steals. Such events are likely to take place if Mars is blocking the effect of Saturn. So now let's move on to Simha Rashi, Leo Moon Sign, and you will have your moon over in this sign only if your nakshatra is Makara, the 10th nakshatra, the 11th nakshatra Purva Falguni, or the 12th nakshatra Uttara Falguni. So you can actually count from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you know Saturn in transit happens to be in your 5th house. In your 5th house, Phaladipika says there is a possibility of a diminishing of wealth, and children may be, there may be separation of children, they may go away from you, and there will be a lot of confusion of the mind. And whenever Saturn moves in the 5th, any planet that moves in the 11th house from this place, from your moon sign, will stop the effect of this negative transit of Saturn. So watch out for planets moving over here, and when they move, automatically the ill effects of Saturn will be blocked temporarily. Also, please look into your Sarvashtaka Varga, and if you find that the score is above 35 or even 28 is enough, but in which case the challenges are likely to decrease. But if the Sarvashtaka Varga score is less than 28 in Sagittarius or Dhanus, then the bad effects of this Saturn is likely to manifest in your life. Now let's move on to Kanya Rashi, Virgo Moon Sign. If you are a Kanya Rashi person or a Virgo Moon Sign person, then your nakshatra must be one of these 3 stars, Uttara Falguni or Hasta or Chitra. So you can see that the Saturn happens to be in your 4th, and the 4th is not a good place because it says problems to your spouse, also problems to relatives, and wealth. This transit is also known as Kantaka Shani. Kantaka Shani is like the Ashtama, the 8th, like the 8th house transit, but it's not as bad as that. And you also have to look into your dashas and antardashas, because if you're going through a good dasha and antardasha, then you need not worry about this, because the good antardasha will actually modify the results of this transit. So what happens in life is usually a sum total influence of both transits and the dasha and antardasha with reference to your own horoscope. And even if a transit of Saturn is bad, all you have to do is do the Saturn remedies on 8th, 17th and 26th or Saturdays, in which case you should expect the challenges of Saturn to come down, to diminish. So now let's move on to Thula Rasi or Libra Moon Sign. You will have Moon in this sign in your horoscope if your nakshatra is Chitra or Swati or Vishaka. You should be extremely happy with this transit of Saturn because the third house is a recovery, is supposed to be one of the best of transits for Saturn, mainly because 7.5 year Saturn has come to an end, and so you should really celebrate this transit of Saturn because you've been bothered by the same planet for the last 7.5 years. And Faladipika says gain of great positions or promotions in your workplace and acquisition of wealth and restoration of all the facilities that you have lost in the last 7.5 years. But the only hitch is that Faladipika also says that when Saturn is moving in the third house, a planet in the 12th from your moon sign can block the results of Saturn in the third. And here we notice that Jupiter is occupying the 12th house. So the point is that as long as Jupiter is here, it is capable of blocking Saturn in the third house, the positive results of Saturn in the third house. But you all know that Jupiter on 12th September moves over from Kanya to Thula. And as soon as this happens, you start getting the full results of Saturn being in your third house. Now we move on to Vrishika Rasi, Scorpio moon sign, and Saturn is in the second from moon. And Faladipika says loss of wealth and concerns with children or problems due to children. Sade-Sati, 7.5 year Saturn, is a very powerful transit of Saturn, during which time there will be many challenges in your life. And if you do Saturn remedies properly on time, every Saturday and every 8th or 17th or 26th, and also on a day when the nakshatra is the 8th nakshatra, the 17th nakshatra, the 26th nakshatra, then the problems is expected to decrease. It's also very important to note the Sarva Ashtaka Varga score in Dhanus Rasi. If it is less than 28, then you will have to surely do the Saturn remedies to prevent any bad incidents from happening in your life. 7.5 year Saturn is to be considered just as an examination. Examination is neither good nor bad. It all depends on the student. For the good student it is good, and for the bad student it is bad. So if you lead a life, an ethical life, a life of rules and regulations and discipline, which is what Saturn likes, then you don't have to worry so much about Sade-Sati or 7.5 year Saturn. And sometimes it may happen that in spite of doing all the Saturn remedies, the challenges are still there. In times like this, you should know that these are coming from your past lives. The effects of the bad actions from your past life always surfaces during 7.5 year Saturn. People who are having this transit may also go through major health issues. So please have periodic health checkups in hospitals in case of any symptoms, or if you are in the third phase of your life, which is 60 plus. Now let's move on to Sagittarius moon sign, Dhanus Rasi people. If you are a Dhanus Rasi person, then your nakshatra can only be Mula or Purvashada or Uttarashada. And you see that Saturn is right over your moon sign. This is the middle part of the 7.5 year Saturn, Sade-Sati. And it's very important that you do all the Saturn remedies on Saturn dominated times. I've done a couple of videos on this topic. Please search them on YouTube and watch those videos, and try your best to do all the Saturn remedies to decrease the ill effects of this transit of Saturn over your moon sign. Diseases are expected during a transit like this, so health conditions may deteriorate. By combining prayers and knowledge, you should be able to minimize the health problems in your life. And Faladipika also says that there may be the passing away of elderly people uh, in your family. You also need to check your Ashtaka in Sarvashtaka if the score is greater than 28, and especially if it is more than 35, then you don't have to really worry about this transit. Also, in the Saturn's Ashtaka you find the score is more than 3, then you don't have to worry so much about this. Now let's move on to Makara Rashi people, Capricorn Moon Sign. This transit of Saturn is very important for all the people born in Capricorn. You will have your moon over here if you are born in any of the 3 nakshatras, Uttarashada or Shravana or Dhanishta. This transit of Saturn is very important to you because this is the beginning of 7.5 year Saturn. So please spend some time in understanding the role of 7.5 year Saturn by referring to articles on blogs on the internet. There are plenty of videos on YouTube, and try to gather as much information as possible about Sade-Sati or 7.5 year Saturn, and also do the remedies. Especially try to do it on 8th, 17th, 26th or Saturdays, or when the day is ruled by the 8th nakshatra, the 17th nakshatra or the 26th nakshatra. At the end of this video, I have given some remedies and tips on how to handle a bad transit of Saturn. Now Faladipika says if Saturn is moving in the 12th house, then he says you will get into activities that are not giving you any results, no profit. So profitless ventures, loss of wealth because of competitors, enemies. Sometimes it may be active enemies, or sometimes it may be just the competition. There may also be health problems to your spouse and children. So now we move on to Kumbha Rashi, Aquarius Moon Sign. If you have your moon sign in this place, which is Kumbha Rashi, then your nakshatra must surely be one of the 3 nakshatras, Dhanishta or Satabisha or Purva Bhadra. And you can see that Saturn is beautifully placed in the 11th from the moon sign. And Faladipika says that all kinds of happiness, gain of wealth, and receipt of unique honor. This is one of the best transits. Congratulate yourself for having such a wonderful opportunity for the next 2.5 years. Whenever Saturn transits the 11th from your moon sign, then any planet that goes over the 5th from your moon sign, like this, for example, if Mars comes into this place in transit, because Mars also keeps going around like this, Mars might enter this sign, and this will be the 5th from the moon sign, and in which case Mars will block the effect of Saturn. At the end of this video, I have given the information on the obstructions, which is called the Veda. If you have a very high score here in Sarvashtaka Varga, let's say you have 35 here or more than 35, then it is extremely good. Some people have even 45. So please check your Sarvashtaka Varga, and you can draw your own conclusions from that. And in your Saturn's Ashtaka Varga, if you have points like, let's say, 4, 5, 6 and 7, then it is going to be really good. Even a minimum 3 is enough for you to get the good results of this transit of Saturn. But as the score goes higher, the results also gets better and better. And whenever you're going through a good transit, continue to do your remedies, because you will have all the resources, time and money for doing remedies, which can come in handy during 7.5 year Saturn or a bad transit of Saturn. Now we come to the last of the 12 moon signs, Pisces moon sign, which is also known as Meena Rasi. So here you find that Saturn is in the 10th from the moon, and 10th is not a good place because Faladipika says the person indulges in sinful actions, loss of honor, and suffer from diseases. But there are other classical books that says that the entire 10th house is not bad, because somewhere around halfway through Saturn starts getting better and better, mainly because it's going towards the 11th house, which is the best of the transits of Saturn. So you have to watch out for these bad effects until Saturn has moved over the middle of this sign. And in case you notice some peculiar problems on Saturdays or Saturn dominated times, please hasten to do all the Saturn remedies that I have suggested at the end of this video. So now I have come to the concluding part of this video. The most important thing about transit is that Saturn is not the only planet that is transiting in your horoscope. There are many other planets, and it's actually, you have to study all the transits together, but for want of time, we are actually only covering the Saturn transit separately or Jupiter transit separately, because these transits happen less frequently. And astrology is an indicative science, and you should use this as a source of knowledge and a source of warning or a message, and not that everything that has been said is surely going to happen. It all depends on so many other factors in your horoscope, because for a bad event to take place, the dashas and antardashas in your horoscope should actually permit that event, and without the permission from the dashas and antardasha or your own horoscope should actually permit an event. For example, if you look into the horoscope of people who have never married and they're already 70 years old, then you may wonder then what happened to all these transits. There must have been a good Jupiter transit or a good Saturn transit, then why did marriage happen? That's because the basic horoscope did not show marriage or did not indicate marriage. That's the reason. So whatever is not permitted by karma, as is seen in your horoscope, those events should not be expected in any transit. And whatever is expected according to your basic chart, then you should watch out for those results as the transit happens. You should also combine the joint influence of Jupiter and Saturn in transit with regard to your ascendant lagna. And by combining all this, then you will get a better view or insight of transits. For example, if the transit is favorable, let's say for Kumbha Rashi people, so let's say this person has the ascendant also here. Now you know that even from the ascendant, Saturn is in the 11th house. Then this should be very good. And then after a while, after September 12th, if Jupiter also moves over this place, then it becomes the 9th house. So this will be an excellent time for a person having the moon sign and the ascendant here. There is also another impact created by Saturn and Jupiter that leads to an event with reference to the ascendant. Now if the ascendant is here, this happens to be the 7th house where Jupiter is, and Jupiter here is already indicating the possibilities of marriage, and for those who are unmarried, this could be a trigger. Also you find that this transit of Saturn is actually favoring this event, because Saturn by its 10th house aspect looks at this 7th house from the ascendant. So in a situation like this, you will find the moon based transit of Saturn is also good, and then from the ascendant point of view, it is able to trigger marriage. So marriage is indicated for a person in Kumbha Rashi, also having the lagna in Meena Lagna or Pisces ascendant. Marriage is possible within the first half of this year, because Jupiter is going to be here until September 12th. So September 12th, when Jupiter moves over here, the possibilities of marriage completely fades away. You actually have to combine all these influences if you want to get really dependable information from the study of transits. We have come to the end of this video. In case you have any doubts, please type them out in the comment section, and whenever I find the time, I'll answer them for you. And see you soon in my next video.